Everybody's going crazy because podcasts can be on Spotify now. How to get yourself on the Spotify podcasting train in this episode of Podcastification. My name is Kerry Green, and I am the client happiness guy at podcastfasttrack.com, and this is Podcastification. This show is all about podcasting. How to do it, how not to do it, best practices, interesting news items that have to do with the realm of podcasting, and who knows what else. And I'm trying to do it all with a little bit of fun and some information to help you get a show going, keep yours going, or make it better. And if you like what's going on here on the show, I would appreciate it, so appreciate it, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes. You can find out how to do that at podcastfasttrack.com/review. That's enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get you podcastificated right away. Yep, it's true. Spotify podcasts, or podcast through Spotify, whatever you want to call it, is soon going to be possible. But did you notice I used the words will soon be possible? That means it's not fully rolled out at this time. That's May 26th of 2015. If you're not familiar with Spotify, you might want to check your pulse. You should do yourself a favor and jump over to www.spotify.com for just a second. Go ahead. I'll wait. Spotify is one of the best streaming audio services out there, in my humble opinion. You can find almost any music you want, and they have great smartphone and web apps that just plain old work. It's one of the few freemium services that I've actually considered paying for. At a press conference on May 20th, 2015, hey, that's my anniversary, Spotify announced their new service, which will include both audio and video from sources they've previously not drawn their content from. And they specifically mentioned podcasts as part of what they'll be offering. Now, I'm curious, do you see what this Spotify deal can mean for podcasters? I mean, it's understandable why people are going crazy about this. In terms of content delivery and getting content out to people, Spotify is already one of the big boys. As of today, Spotify has over 15 million paying subscribers. Paying subscribers. How many more people are like me and are still too poor or cheap, and so they use the free version? Well, I'm glad you asked. 45 million. So there's a potential audience of 60 million people. For the sake of perspective, that's the entire population of the country of Italy. Oh, sole mio. Rob Walsh of Libson, that's one of the big-time media hosts out there, has stated that by the end of 2015, he expects this addition to Spotify's distribution hub to make Spotify the number 2 distributor of podcast audio, right behind iTunes. That means a ton of potential new listeners, which could translate into a surge of new traffic and interest in your show. Wow, you could become a Spotify celebrity. So enough already. How do you get your podcast into the Spotify lineup? Now, you'd think something this cool would be, well, easy to implement, but for most podcasters, it's not. There's not any form you can fill out. There's no email address you can send a request to. You can't even contact Spotify customer service to beg, plead, or offer a bribe. At this point, there's only one way to get your podcast on Spotify. You have to somehow be connected with one of Spotify's approved providers. That's what they call them. Well, who are the Spotify approved providers? Here's a list taken directly from Spotify's website, dated 5/20/2015. Hey, that's my anniversary. Did you know that? As you'll see, it's a list of some big players in the media world. You should also keep in mind that Spotify's new functionality will be including video as well as audio, which is probably why a lot of the names I'm about to read are in this list at all. There's Disney, there's NBC Universal, there's Turner Broadcasting, Viacom, BBC, TED, Condé Nast, Nerdist, Legendary Films, Slate, Play It, Epic TV, Twit, Blue Cora Media, Elite Daily, Tastemade, PRX, I Am Rappaport, HarperCollins, American Public Media, and WNYC Studios. All right, now think about that list. Through this Spotify deal, your show could be right alongside some of the biggest names in media as a choice for people to listen to. Now that is cool. But there's one problem. You have to be one of those approved providers to be on that list. And you're not. Or are you? One of the newest Spotify approved partners may be a game changer for you. You see, there was another announcement made on May 20th, which is an entirely appropriate date for big things since it's my anniversary. The second announcement that was made by a company many podcasters are more closely affiliated with. Libsyn, the media host. Get it? Their announcement was that after a lot of long, hard work, they are now approved to be a partner with Spotify as a provider of audio content. You can listen to that announcement in Libsyn's show. There's a link to it on my website. Show notes for this episode, podcastfasttrack.com/008. Way to go, Libsyn team. That's a huge partnership that benefits so many people. So if you host your podcast on Libsyn, that's good news regarding Spotify because every Libsyn podcaster now has the opportunity to be on Spotify. But according to Rob Walsh from Libsyn, you need to be clear about what that means. If you're set up for download-only hosting, that's not going to cut it. You have to have your podcast set up with Libsyn in a way that utilizes their publishing platform. If you don't know what that is, you might want to look over the Libsyn website. You also have to accept the terms and services Spotify sets up on the deal, whatever they may be when they come out. And this is a distribution and exposure opportunity, not a monetization opportunity. Rob stressed this a lot. That means that if you won't get any money from Spotify through this deal, you'll just get more listeners. And you know, that's a very good thing. Libsyn already has a ton of options for pushing your content out to various distribution hubs automatically, places like YouTube and Facebook and WordPress and others. Spotify would become another one of those options in your Libsyn dashboard. So once the Spotify destination is available in Libsyn, it's done. You get to set it and forget it. And every episode goes out to Libsyn. You can even set up certain episodes to be Spotify-only content. Now, that's pretty cool. Now, some of the questions that naturally come up is this. In the freemium version of Spotify, there are ads, okay, that are in between songs and things like that. So what about Spotify ads and other stuff that you might not want on your podcast? Well, according to Rob, Spotify's ads will not be interrupting your show. There's likely going to be ads before and after, but nothing cutting into your content. You know, I'm personally curious to see if it stays that way long term. Content providers, Facebook, are notorious for changing their terms of service once you're in. I don't begrudge that. It's their service, so they're free to do what they want. But that really concerns me a little bit on this deal. So we'll see. But for now, no ads in the middle of your content. Spotify says so at this point. If it does change and you don't like what's happening in Spotify with your podcast, you can always go into your Libsyn dashboard and disconnect the Spotify distribution. That's my take on it anyway. So if you're a Libsyn podcaster, how do you get your podcast into Spotify? Well, they started this deal with select podcasters, working out the kinks in a beta-style test, but it's eventually going to be rolled out as an option for everyone. Rob Walsh says, if you want to be included, all you have to do is contact him, Rob@Libsyn, that's LABSYN.com. Or you can also contact thefeed@Libsyn.com. And someone will walk you through how to ensure that your show is set up properly so that you can be included when it's open to more podcasters. By the way, you can also call Libsyn at 1-412-573-1934. I should sing that like Leslie Samuel. His wife sings it actually, but if you don't know Leslie's podcast, it's called Learning with Leslie. It's about blogging, all that kind of stuff. And that's way off topic, so never mind. Now, that's pretty easy, isn't it? If you're a podcaster who has your show set up to download only, the Libsyn team can help you get that switched over as well. Here's what Rob said in the interview, or the conversation about this, that I thought was just priceless. He said, if you don't put your podcast in Spotify, you are crazy when you have this opportunity. Now, let me say one other thing about this. There's nothing shady or slighty in my coverage of this Spotify podcast issue. You see, I've talked about both Spotify and Libsyn in glowing terms, but I don't receive anything from either of them. I use Spotify. I upload many client podcasts to Libsyn. Other than that, I just think this is a really great deal for podcasting. What do you think? Leave your comments on the show notes at podcastfasttrack.com/008. Thanks for listening. This show is brought to you by Podcast Fast Track, where my team provides professional podcasting services without the time suck. Full production, editing, and show notes all in one monthly subscription package. You can find out more at podcastfasttrack.com. Now go out and make it a podcastificating day. Well, who are Spotify's man? Oh, I'm so excited. I mean, this Spotify deal is the best thing since barbecue.